Hello, this is Rudolf Kramers from Omni Systems Limited and welcome to our cyberpunk RTS Neopolis. I recorded this video to show you why we think the game is different from other strategy games and why we think it could be a big hit. So the best way to do that is to talk you through the basics and show you how we play the game. Right, firstly, you start the game controlling a crew. In this case they are the two-tone rude boys, a bunch of units with bass guitars with various special attacks. They're your basic all-rounders. They are part of an HQ, or rather they belong to this HQ. In this particular game mode you have to defend your HQ, and if your opponent takes it over you lose the game. Now, the first big difference is that in this game you don't create bases, mine resources that allow you to build factories and create new unit types and do all kinds of resource management and technology tree exploration, all that kind of stuff that is typical of RTS games. We got rid of all of it. And instead our philosophy is that everything you need, everything that is of strategic interest, all that stuff should be out there in the level. So the first thing you need to do is to start exploring your level. So I'm going to select everybody, and from that group select a scout. There we go, and send that scout out to explore. Now there's a few things you need to know. We've got a fog of war system that gets pushed back, as you see, by progress. And eventually you should start to discover things. Oh, and you can only walk on roads. Right, so here you can see the scout is running into some trouble, which leads to the following point. Buildings in Neopolis are hugely important. In this case, this building here, at quite a strategic point in the level, is filled with enemies, 6 out of 8. Now this particular building has certain stats. It's got a health bar, it's got a red bar which is its damage multiplier, all that is here in the sidebar. So these 6 enemies in this building attack anybody in this range and will do 2.5 times the damage that their weapons normally do. Now obviously I don't want this right at my doorstep. I'm going to have to do something about it. So I'm going to just create everybody in my team. There they are. And tell them to attack the building. Now units are semi-independent. They form formations, as you can see. I only told them to attack the building, and there they go, marching on their way. They will plot their own routes, and when they are in range they will start attacking it, which is happening as we see. Now they need to whittle down the health to 0, and once that is done the building will get sacked and everybody inside the building will be evacuated and momentarily stunned. Now I'm taking some damage in the meantime, but it looks like I'll be successful, and when its health is empty, there we go, those were the occupants. Now I'm going to now go enter this building, because that's the other thing in Neopolis. Every asset that matters can be stolen. I've now taken over this building and I'm attacking the former occupants from their own building. The building isn't quite mine yet. I mean, it temporarily is, but in order to add it to my little empire, I can transform the building into something else. So in this case I'm going to turn it into a dojo, because this game also has RPG elements. There. Now a few things that are handy to know. You can speed up time, as you can see, which makes for a much quicker transformation process. And you can see in the sidebar here that everybody is leveling up nicely. Now in this, oh, there's an enemy. Right, you can also pause the game if you want to have a think. Now in this game you gain experience for all kinds of actions. Working out in a dojo is one of them, but it happens in the field as well. Now in the meantime you saw that somebody came running in. That's player 2. Somewhere in the fog of war somebody else is doing exactly what we're doing, exploring and finding assets and resources. Right, now before we continue with these with the leveling up, there's some other things that are good to know. Firstly, let me start time again. there. You can find, as I said, everything of interest in the level. Now here that's a bike.
Entering vehicle.
Now letting this guy actually enter the bike. And when he does, I will have there something quick to explore with. This is way faster, of course, than going on foot, as you can see. This looks interesting. Right, I'll come back to that in a sec. Now you can see the enemies on the run, doing things, patrolling. I'm being attacked as well, so my bike is not going to last that much longer, especially with all these enemies around. Oh, and here I can see an enemy building. So there's all kinds of stuff happening. Now another thing that's good to know is you see here a group of enemies being attacked. They're not just being attacked by the people in this building, they're also being attacked by this automatic laser. You get these for free when you convert a building to your empire, in this case to a dojo. So it's good and important to take over buildings and to defend them. Now other things you can do with the building is, and with units in general, is when I select this character I can go into first person mode. As you can see, you can do things in first person you can't do in other modes. So for example, this building I can search the inside, which I'm going to do. I'm searching this structure, and let's speed up time a bit. Right, range boost. Now if I go out of this now, it will indicate that this person has picked up a range boost pickup. Now all throughout the buildings in the level there are all kinds of interesting and useful pickups. This particular one, if I click on the character, you can see he now has a huge range. There are all kinds of other pickups as well. Right, now what did we see earlier? I found this here. This is interesting. This is another HQ, in this case by a gang that is not aligned with me, another crew basically. This is the way I can add to my empire. If I take over their HQ, then these gang members will start to take my orders. So I'm going to try and do that. These characters have been leveled up. I'm going to let them leave the building now.
Exiting structure.
In the meantime, I've got some more characters here.
Moving unit.
Sometimes more characters spawn at your base. I want to let them all come together. Speed up time a little bit. Now I also saw this tank here, which I find hugely enticing. So I'm going to actually take one of these characters, put him in a bike, take the rest, select them. I've got one button presses for these actions. Get them in place. Take my bike and see if I can steal this tank. Now let's see. I can get there quick enough. I'm going to get out of the tank. Oh, pardon me. Wrong button. Oh, here we go. He's leaving the... Right, now. Is he going to enter the tank? Pardon the spinning, there's still a few more bugs. Right, I have a tank. This is useful. I'm going to send this tank to attack this building. Now, tanks are very slow, but they are incredibly powerful against structures. So in this case, let's speed up time a little bit. And as you can see, the tank is automatically shooting enemy buildings as he gets past. But for now, I just want this tank to attack this HQ. Now in the meantime, the enemy is having a go. So I'm going to send in my troops. And when health is down to 0, I will siege the enemy HQ, and I'm going to make it almost. Just made it, only just. Now this is really interesting. These units have completely different strengths from other units. In the meantime, player 2 comes and investigate. Right, they have completely different powers. If I select these guys now, all of them, here we go, and for example let them attack these units here, you see they travel as a pack, and as a pack they do much more damage than as individuals. So you'll see how quickly they get rid of these enemies. So this is a specific strength of them. Now if I would break them up, they would become very weak indeed. But here as a pack, they're hard to stop unless you find other units that have the power to deal with this kind of behavior. Now in the meantime, I found another useful item. This is a spider tank. There we go. Which is extremely good against people, but useless against buildings. So I could take this tank and these characters here to try and attack this group. Now in the meantime, I can see the enemy is taken over this little building here, and this is, I think, a good moment where I'm going to unfog the world with some debug keys. Obviously normally I can't do that, so I'm going to do a cheat so you can see the whole level. You can see player 2 is to be found right here. Now there's a few other things to know. I'm not going to go into too much detail here, but here's a booth and a barrier. Somebody's opened it already, but I can close this off and basically change the layout of the map in ways that are beneficial to me. There are other vehicles to be found. This one here is a van, which is useful for really quick troop transport. Also vehicles are immune to the auto defenses from buildings, so that's quite useful. Now in the meantime, my attack has failed, which is a shame. And if I look around the map, I can see that the enemy has taken over a fair few buildings already, doing a little bit better than me. Now, to save time, I'm not going to slowly take over other units and win this particular match. I just wanted to show the specific mechanics of the game, but just really quickly a few things I wanted to point out. So this unit type here, these are the Omni Street Warriors. They're basically super engineers. They can repair things, they can change a building designation. They have very specific skill sets that make them very useful for certain tasks. Now over here, these are called the Betsies. They have also very specific skills. These are to be thought of as tanks. They are almost unstoppable against buildings and vehicles, but they're slow. And as such, units like these here, the Disco Dazzlers, they are very good at stopping heavy slow crews. They're like snipers. So there's a few others as well, but the idea is clear. Everybody has their own strengths and weaknesses, and a big part of the game is the combination of, let's say, tower defense play, where you take over key buildings in key places to defend against intruders, conquer the right unaligned crews to add them to your mix, and use vehicles, tanks, pickups, etc. to even out the odds. And ultimately it's a very balanced way of playing. Everybody has the same chances. You just have different starting positions. You can vie for resources, and you can lose resources. So for example, this building here that got me control of these coyotes, if I were to lose that building now, then the enemy would take control over these crews that are currently mine and could start to use them against me. Same thing with this tank. This tank, as you can see, has 0 health now. If this was at an enemy HQ, they could just repair the tank and take it over. So in this case, I still have control over the tank. Although it is damaged, I should probably get it repaired. So in a nutshell, those are the key aspects of the game. There's a lot more to it, but there's only so much time that I can spend explaining the game before you lose interest. I quickly wanted to show you a bit of the variety of the art styles, but also the other game modes. This is of course really important. So I'm going to go to the main menu. This particular game mode I would have won if I'd taken over player 2 HQ, and I would have lost if they had taken over my player HQ. Right, so what else is there? Right, crucially, the game is both multiplayer and single player. In single player, we have a whole single player campaign. Now in this particular demo, we got 11 levels. The final one is going to get probably about 25, possibly more, with a strong narrative behind it, where you work your way up through the league and solve a specific mystery. This is how you learn to play the game. This part of the game alone is very enjoyable and large. This is going to take a long time to play through. I'd say easily 30 hours, possibly more. Now, but that's just the start. We also have other game modes. The skirmish mode you've just seen. Here's a few example levels. There will be many others as well. I'm going to load one in a minute so you can see the different visual styles. But basically in skirmish, it's like simulated deathmatch. You win if you take over your enemy HQ. This is against a computer opponent. We also have a time attack mode, where you win within a certain time frame, or basically try and beat the high score, get better scores. That's a challenge mode, where you get to play very specific scenarios. This is one example level. There will be many others. There's also a super score mode, which is about scoring as many points as you can within a specific time limit. And then finally, if I leave all this single player stuff, we also have multiplayer, which is not active right now, but should be within a few weeks. It's been tested before, but this current build has so many new items in it that we need to update the multiplayer. But basically in multiplayer you can play deathmatch. The final game will have up to 4 players within one level, and cooperative. Now we also have another mode planned called tourism mode, which is like a peaceful exploration and photography mode. That one is pending final approval, but we'll see how it goes. Right, I think that's most of what you need to know. The game has been in development for quite a long time now, 5 to 6 years, 6 years I think. Sony have invested in the PlayStation 4 port, but we're planning on this to be a big, deep IP to come out on many platforms, ultimately also on mobile, and after the premium phase has finished we want to move towards a free-to-play spin-off. So I think the rest of the questions that you may have could be answered by my pitch deck, and if you have any further questions, just get in touch with me. Thank you very much.